Hi, Toria.
Good morning, Shabbat Shalom.
We're live now, guys.
Shalom.
Alrighty, there y'all go. Come on in. Just fill her up today. Hi, Danny.
Hey.
Now, don't forget here on the StreamYard's kind of messed up with echoes and stuff, so we have to control our mics and turn off YouTube. Stay on StreamYard, just X off on YouTube and control our mics. We'll get some people coming in here shortly. Anybody got any opening comments or any questions or anything you want to talk about while we're waiting on others to come in?
I wasn't able to get on YouTube, so yeah.
Oh, you came straight in through StreamYard?
Yeah, I was trying to use my wife's laptop, and it was nothing. So
Okay.
Yeah, whatever. Anyway, they all went to a baseball game, a minor league baseball game, because that was important.
I used to love to do that. I like to go to minor league games.
Yeah, but not instead of Shabbat. So
no. This was before I knew you. I used to do a lot of football and baseball games then.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're trickling in here. Here comes Sister Phyllis. Hi, Phyllis.
Hi.
Trickling in here. Here comes Sister Phyllis. See that?
How y'all doing?
Hi, Phyllis.
How are you?
Hi.
How are you doing? Can you hear me? How y'all doing? Oh, I have to turn on. Hold on. How are you doing? Can you hear me? Okay, I fixed it. Sorry.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to call. I'm gonna probably this week if I remember. I'm gonna try to call them and find out why. There's got to be a way to stop that from happening. I think YouTube and StreamYard are both on or something is what's causing that. I'm not sure.
It's probably feedback. I'm sure.
Yeah, it shouldn't though. It shouldn't do that. I'll call and see if I can find out why.
Brother Mark, this is Diane. I'm getting a new computer next week, so I hope I'm able to sign on next week. Because Microsoft is shutting me down for my old computer because it's not Windows 11. So I had to buy it.
I'm still using Windows 10. I mean,
yeah, well, I don't have Windows 10. I have Windows 0.81.
I'm get on. Liz still has 7, and they keep telling him they're going to shut him down.
Yeah, well, they kept telling me that. So my granddaughter, I did research, and by the time I would have my current computer upgraded to Windows 10, they couldn't do the 11, but the 10, and just change it all together, take the motherboard out and everything. It would cost me a lot of money, so I said, well, I might as well buy a new one. So hopefully I'll be able to fellowship next week with everyone. I can sign back on. Just to let you know. So if you don't see me, that's the problem. I'm trying to get on.
Yeah, I hear you. I had to go through the same thing, and ended up with 3 screens, Diane. I took it to the maximum. But it's fun. Having different screens is a lot of fun once you get the hang of it. It's really easy, actually.
Hi, Yami and Raul. How you doing?
Good. How are you all doing?
Can you hear us?
Can you hear us? Can you hear us?
Yes, we hear you. I hear you very well.
I heard.
We had a little bit of a problem trying to get in, but I think it's okay now.
Lou is coming. He's just finishing up. We had a late lunch.
Oh, okay.
Well, actually, it's not a late lunch. We usually don't eat lunch until 1 or 2, but we eat before the show.
We snack during the show.
Well, actually, it's not a late lunch. We usually don't eat lunch until 1 or 2, but we eat before the show.
We snack during the show.
Well, actually, it's not a
Shabbat shalom, my brother Aaron.
Yeah, Shabbat Shalom to everyone. How y'all doing? Okay. How you doing, Phil?
All right. Computer, but wife's password. So I'll
Okay.
do it with the phone.
Gibson girl, how you do? Hi, Toria.
I think somebody's still hooked into
Danny.
I received your message, Rebecca. Thank you very much for explaining everything to me. So I may look into the blue letter myself. Thank you.
Okay, just as a reminder, we have to use our mics, turn our mics off and on, keep control of our mics. If we're not talking, if you want to talk, you can unmute it. And if you have YouTube still up, you have to X off YouTube because that'll cause severe problems. So just leave StreamYard on and X off YouTube. And you can communicate if you're in the StreamYard by comments. You can see the chat room. And if you go to private chat, you can talk to anybody you want to inside StreamYard here. Okay, but turn YouTube off and just try to monitor our mics as best as we can. We all forget from time to time, but I'm gonna try to get a hold of YouTube or StreamYard, either one, this coming up week and find out why we're getting this echo issue, because I don't think that should be happening. So see what I can do with it. But all right. Just a few more minutes. We got some other people trickle in here. We'll just let them trickle in, and we'll get started here in about 3 minutes or so. Y'all want to talk? In the meantime, go ahead.
I just want to shout out to you, Brother Mark. Shalom, Shabbat Shalom to you.
Shabbat shalom to you, AJ. Glad to see you in here, man. Missed you last night. I know if you want.
Yeah, I was a little tired yesterday. I just took a rest.
Cam's on.
Okay.
Hello.
Hello. Yeah, we had Lou White on pretty much all last night, speaking about the 3 fall festivals or appointed times. If any of you missed that, you may.
What happened to the sound?
The sound should still be here. Did you guys lose the picture?
You froze up for a second.
Yeah, everybody was spinning for me. It was like maybe one of them were refreshing or something. Probably YouTube or was refreshing, or StreamYard. But anyway,
It was actually just you froze up.
that's weird. On mine, everybody was spinning. I couldn't see anybody. But anyway, if y'all didn't catch that last night, it's recorded on this channel here. You can go back later on today or something and watch it. A lot of powerful information come out there last night. It was really, really great. Okay, a couple more minutes and we'll get going.
Mark,
You right? Yeah, go ahead.
I was going to say, if you can only have 10 people on here, I can back out and let Lou have my spot.
Well, kind of like you in here.
Okay.
I mean, you ask a lot of good questions.
Okay.
I'll back out that Luke. I'm in my spot here.
We can give our spot if somebody wants to get in.
Lou was on all last night. He might just want to hang out in the chat room. If he wants to come in,
Okay.
maybe we can stick for 11. I don't know. I've never tried. I think I'm counted. Maybe I'm not counted. You know, maybe there's 10 plus me. I don't know. I hope he does try to come in. We'll find out. I just always assumed that the 10, yeah, it counts me because when other people try to come in, I get a message that they're trying to come in, but they can't. So,
Well, we offer our spot. We usually are listening more than asking questions.
well, we'll see. He may just want to chill out in the chat room himself. We'll see what he wants to do. Yeah, someone trying to come in. I don't know who it is. But everybody here is just as important as anybody else now. There's nobody no more important than anyone else. If that's Brother Lou Phyllis trying to come in, could you tell him to just hang out in the chat room? If there's an opening comes up, then he can come back. Sometimes people drop or they have to leave early too, you know. Usually by the end we have 3 or 4 slots open anyway. So we're almost ready to start now. We'll let Phyllis come back. We'll get started. Maria, you having a problem with audio? Everybody can hear me, right? I mean, there's no problem with the audio, is there? Okay. Yeah, I don't know, Maria. Maybe it's on your end. Joseph, I hope you can hear me, brother. It's probably just StreamYard was refreshing or something. Who knows? Okay. Thank you, Monique. Phyllis back yet? Nope. As soon as Phyllis comes back, we'll get started. Okay, Joseph, cool. If anybody has any questions in the chat room, if you put your question in all caps, we can detect it better, and somebody maybe will see it. So I hate to miss any questions. And you don't have to direct your questions directly at me either. You can ask anybody on this panel if you want to ask anybody questions. Like Danny there, you could ask him what his dog's name is if you want to. You don't have to talk to me, but I'll try to answer your question best I can. Go ahead, Phyllis.
Lou's had computer problems again, but he's going to get on and he's just going to hang out in the chat.
Okay, I figured he probably might do that. Okay, so yes, if anybody has to leave, positions open, y'all in the chat room, you can come in. If we drop below 10, as we normally do, as time goes on here. Okay, so I think we'll get started now. It's 11:15, so we'll have a few more trickling in, but we got to get started. And we're back in Romans. We're studying the book of Romans, or the letter of Romans. And we left off chapter 9. So we'll try to cover chapter 9, 10, and 11 if we can today, because they go hand in hand. Very important chapters here, too. And so in chapter 9, Paul uses a lot of scriptural references. It's just loaded with them. A lot of out of Genesis and Isaiah and Exodus and even Job and Hosea and Isaiah. I mean, he just loads it up. Chapter 9 with extracted verses from other scripture. So anybody wanting to start us out with chapter 9 would like to read it? Anybody at all? Okay, Yami.
All right. Chapter 9. I speak the truth in Mashiach. I do not lie. My conscience also bearing me witness in the Ruach HaKodesh that I have great sadness and continual grief in my heart. For I myself could have wished to be banished from Mashiach for the sake of my brothers, my relatives according to the flesh, who are Israelites, whose is the adoption and the esteem and the covenant and the giving of the Torah and the worship and the promises, whose are the fathers, and from whom is the Mashiach according to the flesh, who is over all, Yahuwah blessed forever.
Yeah, hang on a minute, Yami. Don't forget to mute when I interrupt if you can. There you go. Thank you. So here Paul begins this with acknowledging the importance of Yahuwah's elect, Yisrael. Okay. And it's going to get deeper and deeper and deeper into that. So the one thing that I'd like for us all to concentrate on here is how this debunks replacement theology or supersessionism. It just goes deeper and deeper and deeper into doing that as we read through these 3 chapters. And of course, one of the ultimate ones is Jeremiah 31, right? Everybody knows that. So the importance of the Israelites in, is the adoption, the esteem, the covenants, the giving of the Torah, how they worship, and the promises given to the seed of Abraham and Yitzhak and Yaakov, and the Mashiach's going to come through them. And so he's establishing their importance, not their that they've been thrown away and they're no longer the people of Yahuwah as Christianity tries to teach. So here we see some reason Yisrael, or being part of Yisrael, becomes vitally important to believers. And he's establishing this right at the beginning of here. And notice at the very top, right on the first sentence there, I speak the truth in Mashiach. So here Paul is not saying I am speaking to you as a man, as he quite often does through his letters. He is reaffirming this is the Mashiach telling us this through him now. See that big difference, man. Okay, Yami.
All right.
6.
6. However, it is not as though the word of Yahuwah has failed, for they are not all Yisrael who are of Yisrael. Neither are they all children because they are the seed of Abraham, but in Yitzhak your seed shall be called. That is, those who are the children of the flesh, these are not the children of Yahuwah, but the children of the promise are reckoned as the seed. For this is the word of promise. At this time I shall come, and Sarah shall have a son.
Okay, hang on a minute there. Okay, so this here is important to catch it. I think most of us probably have, but for those who did not, what this is telling us here is that there's children, the children of Yahuwah are spiritual. Okay. And it says, for they are not all Israel who are of Israel. Why? Because the spiritual children are, the fleshly children are not. So here we have the opposition of flesh and ruach again. Neither are they all children because they are the seed of Abraham. Just because they're descendants of Abraham doesn't mean that they're children of Yahuwah. But in Yeshak, your seed shall be called. That is, those who are the children of the flesh. They're in the land covenant. They're under the circumcision law of the land covenant. They're in the flesh, the mind of the flesh, spiritually. These are not the children of Yahuwah, because the children of Yahuwah are spiritual. They walk in spirit and truth, not the flesh. But the children of the promise are reckoned as the seed. The promise would be the promise of the Messiah. They have the Messiah living in them. These are not the children of Yahuwah, but the children of the promise are reckoned as the seed. See that? So the ones that have the Mashiach in them are reckoned as the seed of Yahuwah, or the children of Yahuwah. Everybody saying that? For this is the word of promise. At this time I shall come, and Sarah shall have a son, which we know is Yeshak. Okay, and so Rebecca would be his wife, as we're getting ready to see. But this, everybody, this is kind of important. I'm getting a little bit of blank stares here. So let's, everybody turn to Acts chapter 2, verse 38 real quick. Acts chapter 2, verse 38 and 39. It says, and Kepha said to them, repent and let each one of you be immersed in the name of Yahushua Mashiach for the forgiveness of sins, and you shall receive the gift of the Ruach HaKodesh for the promise. So here's the promise now for the children. For the promise is to you and to your children and to all who are far off, as many as Yahuwah our Elohim shall call. Okay, so we go back over there, we see it. But the children of promise are reckoned in the seed. So the children of promise. What promise? The gift of the Ruach HaKodesh. Getting cleaned up, receiving the Ruach, you become the children of promise. Okay, everybody seeing the connection? Any questions on it? It's a very important matter right there, really. Nobody? Okay, Yami.
Okay, verse 10. And not only so, but Rebekah, having conceived by one, our father Yitzhak, yet before they were born or had done any good or evil, in order that the purpose of Yahuwah, according to choice, might stand, not of works, but of him who calls. It was said to her, the greater shall serve the lesser. As it has been written, Jacob I have loved, but Esau I have hated. What then shall we say? Is there unrighteousness with Yahuwah? Let it not be.
Okay, hang on a minute there, Yami. Okay, everybody, this is, we go through Abraham to Yitzhak to Rebecca, and it says that conceived by one, our father Yitzhak, speaking of their twins. And yet, wait a minute. Yeah. And yet before they were born or had done any good or evil in order, so this was pre-done. I mean, it was beforehand. Yet before they were born or had done any good or evil, see, before they were born, in order that the purpose of Yahuwah according to choice. Okay, so this is kind of letting us know again that Yahuwah knows everything before it happens. So we, through Yitzhak here now, he has these twins and Rebecca, and the one's Esau and one is Jacob or Yaakov, right? And Yaakov becomes Yisrael. His name, he's given the name Yisrael, and he has, his children are the 12 tribes. So instead, the greatest shall serve the lesser. We find that in Genesis 25. Matter of fact, and then it says, Jacob I have loved, Esau I have hated. Okay, so that's, kind of a stunner when we think about this. What? Yahuwah hated him? And why? And we need to understand who Esau was. And so, what then shall we say? Is there unrighteousness with Yahuwah? Let it not be. Okay, so why is he hating Esau and all this, right? Okay, so there's nothing surprising to Yahuwah. Jacob was the second born. He come out holding the heel of Esau. When they came out, they were twins. So Esau was the firstborn and was inherited the rights of the firstborn, and he traded those right. He hated that right, so he traded those rights to his brother for a bowl of stew, because he was hungry. Okay, so anyway, it goes further, and they trick their dad and all this and that. He tricks his dad and stuff like that to get the blessing of the firstborn. But anyway, Esau becomes, his descendants becomes Romans. Esau becomes the Romans. Actually, all of Europe, if you will, European descent. I know a lot of people teach that a little bit differently, but if you really do some research on it, you'll find out that Esau's descendants are the Romans. Okay, so this would be interesting, and when we start to realize the role of the Romans and the death of Yahushua later on, right? And what the Romans did to the Israelite people, to the Hebrew children. And no wonder Yahuwah hates them, right? You start thinking about that. But this was way back before they were even born. He knew this. This is why all this happened the way it did. But I think something really important, I hope most of us already know this, but for those who don't, let's turn to Genesis 32 real quick. Genesis 32. Yeah, Genesis 32:22. It says, and he rose up that night and took his 2 wives and his 2 female servants and his 11 sons and passed over the ford of Yabarak. This is talking about Jacob. And he took them and sent them over the stream and sent over what he had. And Yaakov was left alone, and a man wrestled with him until the breaking of Yom. And when he saw that he did not overcome him, he touched the socket of his hip. So the man he was wrestling touched the socket of Jacob's hip. And the socket of Yaakov's hip was dislocated as he wrestled with him. And he said, let me go, for the Yom breaks. But he said, I am not letting you go until you have blessed me. So he asked him, what is your name? And he said, Yaqub, or Jacob. And he said, your name is no longer called Yaqub, but Yisrael, because you have striven with Elohim and with men and have overcome. So Jacob was an overcomer, and here he's wrestling with Yahuwah, actually the firstborn of all creation, because nobody's ever seen Yahuwah in his natural form, have they? Nah. So he was wrestling with the firstborn of all creation, the Word. And Yaqub asked him, saying, please let me know your name. Now, this is interesting. And then he said, why do you ask about my name? That blows my mind. I don't know about y'all, but that blows me away. You know, who was saying, what you asking about my name for? That's something else, ain't it? And he blessed him there, and Yaqub called the name of the place Peniel, meaning face of Elohim. For I have seen Elohim face to face, and my life is preserved. And he did not die. So he saw Yahuwah face to face, but he did not die. Like scripture says, no man can see Elohim, where he will surely die, right? But here Jacob's declaring that he did see him. Why? Because he didn't see him in his natural form. He saw the firstborn of all creation, the Word, okay? Which other people did too after he was incarnated. But here in this situation, he was also incarnated. See what I'm saying? But in a different form, different way. Probably the same way as when Yahushua came and he was disappearing and translating and defying gravity and calming storms. See what I'm saying? He just came through the womb of a woman. But he was still coming down in the flesh before that, because this is proof of it right here. And many, many more times. There's proof 100 times people saw him as he came down in the flesh. That's the only reason he made a body for himself, the firstborn of all creations, so that he could be seen by Malachim and man. Otherwise, we could never see him. He's invisible. And nobody's ever seen him in his natural form, which is what? What's Yahuwah's natural form? Spirit, Ruach, dwelling in unapproachable light. If you see that form, you will die. Okay, and the sun rose on him as he passed over Penuel, and he limped on his hip. That is why the children of Israel to this day do not eat the sinew of the hip, which is on the socket of the thigh, because he touched the socket of the thigh of Jacob in the sinew of the hip. Okay, so this here is telling us that once we all wrestle with Yahuwah in our lifetime, sometime or other, we're going to wrestle with Yahuwah. Okay, and some of us still do. Instead of yielding to him and letting him have his way, we want to think we know better than he does, and we wrestle with his will. Right? And so some of us are still doing that. And so what this little passage tells us here spiritually is once we wrestle with Elohim, our daily walk will never be the same. We'll always walk with a limp. That's the way our walk will be from now on if we wrestle with Yahuwah, like Yaqub did here. We never walk the same. Okay, and did Jacob get blessed for wrestling with Yahuwah against his will? He wouldn't even let him go. He did, didn't he? So although he walked the rest of his life with a limp, he received a dramatic blessing. I mean, he became Yisrael. His seed is the election of Yahuwah through his seed beforehand, before they were even born. So this is amazing, kind of a startling, really, revelation here on Jacob and Esau being the Romans, and Jacob I loved, but Esau I have hated. Well, that's in Malachi 1. And where it says, is there unrighteousness with you? Who some people will say it seemed to be wrong for Yahuwah to give Esau's inheritance to Jacob, right? And bless Jacob and then hate Esau. And people kind of don't understand that. But if we understand what Yahuwah knew, that Esau was going to be the Romans and the Europeans in general, we can start to understand now why this is. Matter of fact, I personally believe that the anti-Mashiach is going to come out of Rome myself. And we've talked about that before. Okay, so that's kind of important stuff here that Paul's bringing up. Anybody got any questions about it? No? Okay, Yami.
Okay, verse 15. For he says to Musha, I shall favor whomever I favor, and I shall have compassion on whomever I have compassion. So then, it is not of him who is wishing, nor of him who is running, but of Yahuwah who shows favor.
Okay, hang on. This is huge. Okay, this is so huge. You can find where Yahuwah says this to Moses in Exodus 33:19, if you want to look it up. This is telling us, people, that we have no business or no authority over deliverance. We don't get to judge who gets delivered from the lake of fire and who gets annihilated. We're not even allowed to pretend like we know that, watching someone's behavior. And this is plain as plain can be, plain as the nose on your face. I shall favor whomever I favor. Whether or not you think that's the worst person in the world, and that person's going to hell, you're going to be annihilated in the lake of fire, for sure. Yahuwah might save him and throw you in the lake of fire because you just judged him. So you're going to be judged just the way that you judged that person. Whoa, talking about a reversal. Should we be kind with our mouths? That's right. And I shall favor, and I shall have compassion on whomever I have compassion. So this is telling us that Yahuwah decides everything. It's all up to him, especially when you start talking about deliverance. We have to be real careful with that. And I think the most humbling example of this, in my opinion, and I've studied this in great detail over the years, is the robber on the stake. You know, you have two robbers on each side of Yahusha hanging on the stakes, right? Yes, Esau was a red man. Well, this robber did not come down off of that stake and run down and get immersed somewhere and come back and nail himself back up to the stake. Neither did it appear, or I can't find anywhere where it says he had received the Ruach HaKodesh while he was staked for being a robber. You know, robber's a lot worse than a thief. Way worse than a thief. So I think, and people say, well, he never repented. He never confessed. He was never water immersed. He didn't receive the Ruach. How is it that he's allowed to come into the everlasting covenant? How is it that we're going to see him in the reign of Yahuwah? It's because Yahuwah can do whatever Yahuwah wants, and he can have favor and compassion, deliver whoever he wants, and we ain't got 2 cents to say about it. That's why he's not restricted. we feel we're restricted in our fleshly world, in our carbon copied life. We feel restricted by rules, laws, and other things, men even, other people. And so we feel that we can pass this restrictions on to Yahuwah and say what he can do and what he can't do. We can't do that. Yahuwah can do whatever he wants. He saved that robber. He delivered that robber. He can deliver whoever he wants. So we got to get a handle on that. And I mean, that's so important for us to understand. People say, well, what about my grandfather? I loved him so much. He raised me. He died and he didn't know Yahuwah's name. He's going to be thrown in the lake of fire. Says who? Did Yahuwah tell you that? Or did a man tell you that? Or are you just assuming that? Well, I just thought that's what Scripture says. Well, maybe you shouldn't think so much about what Scripture says. Maybe you should start praying to Yahuwah about it. You know what I'm saying? This is hard facts here. We all want to think that we can draw a line and we can decide who the sheep are and who the goats are. And some of us even put ourselves above the sheep and goats, think we're better than anybody because we were chosen. We're going to find out about that as we read on today. All right, so I hope everybody's on board with that. Yahuwah gets to decide everything. And matter of fact, folks, he decided it beforehand, before the foundations of the earth was laid. Job's very powerful. We spoke about Job last week. We want to speak a little bit about him today here in just a second. And I think it'll put the icing on this for us, so we can understand this at the deepest levels. Okay, coming right up. Go ahead, Yami.
Okay. 17. For the scripture says to Pharaoh, for this same purpose I have raised you up, to show my power in you, and that my name be declared in all the Arets. So then he favors whom he wishes, and he hardens whom he wishes. Then you shall say to me, why does he still find fault? For who has resisted his counsel? But who are you, O man, to talk back to Yahuwah? Shall that which is formed say to him who formed it, why have you made me like this?
Okay, hang on now. All right, so this is powerful stuff right here. This goes along with what we just kind of talking about. He favors who he wishes to favor, and he hardens who he wants to. Okay, and so Pharaoh was the example of that. So what was Pharaoh born for? Why was he on this earth? To fulfill the will of Yahuwah, man. To do it so that Yahuwah could show his power through the behavior of Pharaoh. Can you imagine that? Yahuwah planned all of that out for Pharaoh? Think about that. Okay, so then it goes on to say, why does he still find fault? What's that mean? Well, if Yahuwah has everything planned out beforehand and he knows exactly what everybody's going to do, right? Then why does he still find fault in somebody that's doing his will? They were made to do exactly what they did. So it wasn't them doing it, really, it was Yahuwah doing it. Is that right? That's a hard one, isn't it? But who are you, O man, to talk back to Yahuwah? Okay, shall that which is formed say to him who formed it, why have you made me like this? So is this telling us that we don't have free will? Is this telling us we don't have free will? This is all predestined beforehand, and Yahuwah made everybody to say exactly what they're saying, that they're going to do, and everything is going to happen exactly the way it happened. And you agreed to your life, what you were going to do with your life with Yahuwah before he even created you, because he knew you beforehand. And the Lamb was slain before the foundations of the earth. Was everything talked through and agreed upon before he created anything? It says he knew you before the foundations of the earth. Are we starting to see the power of Yahuwah yet? The power of Yahuwah is what's on display here, folks. It ain't nothing to do with free will. People think this is talking about free will, if we have it or if we don't. But it ain't. This is about the power of Yahuwah, man. We better remain humble and just be quiet about it. We don't know what we're talking about, do we? None of us really do we, when it comes to Yahuwah's power and strength and might. Let's go to Job 38. Job 38. Ooh. See now. Job 38. Just love these moments. It would be nice if I was on the right page. Okay, Job 38, verse 2. Who is this who darkens counsel by words without knowledge? Now, what does this mean? Well, counsel means you're speaking to Yahuwah's court. Okay, there were times, several times really, through scripture that we are made aware that Yahuwah holds court. And he brings in all the Malachim, even Satan comes to the council and speaks, okay, in front of Yahuwah. Okay, so who is this who darkens counsel by words of knowledge? Who's he speaking to now? Job. Yahuwah speaking to Job. Now gird up your loins. That means get ready. Get ready for what's coming. That's what that means. Gird up your loins. It's just an idiom. Like a man. And I ask you, and you answer me. Where were you when I laid the foundations of the earth? Declare it if you have understanding. Who set its measurements, if you know, or who stretched the line upon it? Upon what were its foundations sunk? This is where the flat earth people love to point that out, if you ever talk to one of them. Or who laid its cornerstone? Or the morning stars, or when the morning stars sang together and all the sons of Elohim shouted for joy. So this right here, it humbles me exceedingly every time I read it. Yahuwah is saying, like, well, where were you when I laid the foundations of your earth? Declared, if you have understanding of all this, if you know so much, big boy. Right? So this here, back in the Romans now, is speaking of the power of Yahuwah and the knowledge of Yahuwah, which we have no clue. If we knew the power of Yahuwah, I don't think any of us would dare even say anything. Pertaining to anything. So does this prove that that there is no such thing as free will? Can anybody answer that? Or do we have free will? Go ahead, Yami.
We might have free will for certain things, but I think our life is written down beforehand.
What things?
AJ, you got thoughts on that?
Yeah, we have, he give us the right to choose life or death. Choosing him is life. Not choosing him is death in our humanity.
Remember what you just said. I'm going to bring you right back to that. That's great insight, brother. Okay, let's move on.
Okay. Where is it?
Right there.
Okay. But who are you, O man? Okay. To talk back to Yahuwah, shall that which is formed say to him who formed it, why have you made me like this? Does not the potter have authority over the day from the same lump to make one vessel for value and another not for value? And if Yahuwah, desiring to show wrath and to make his power known, with much patience tolerated the vessels of wrath prepared for destruction, and that he might make known the riches of his esteem on vessels of compassion, which he had prepared beforehand for esteem, even whom he called, not only us of the Yahudim, but also of the nations? As he says in Hosea 2, I shall call them my people who were not my people, and her beloved who was not beloved.
Okay, hang on. All right. Now, this is something that we really need to get a handle on. Okay, so vessels of wrath, vessels is our bodies. Okay, a vessel or a tent refers to our bodies. So this is speaking of our bodies. There's heat. So what this is saying is that Yahuwah, desiring to show wrath and to make his power known. I mean, that's mind blowing right there. He created vessels for destruction. He's going to destroy people to show his power. But these vessels of destruction are made to do what? Talk bad about him, disobey him, be evil, be wicked, bow down to statues. I mean, he don't let his power be known by destroying them in front of who? His election, his elect, and the Malachim that did not follow. So it's almost like a reward for the vessels who are made for esteem, and the Malachim that did not follow, to see the wrong suffer and be annihilated. And this is Yahuwah's will for what? To show his power. Now we can sit there, why is he doing that? That sounds cruel. I don't get that. Well, let's go back and read Job again. Who are you, old man, to question the maker? And why he did what he did. We can't talk about him and what he's doing. We have no idea why he's doing what he's doing. We just know that he's doing it because he revealed it to us here through Paul. Okay, so the vessels of compassion have esteem on vessels of compassion, which he had prepared beforehand for esteem, to esteem himself. Why? Because they will obey him. They worship him, praise him. Listen to everything he says. Follow him. Be his servants. So the vessel, esteem on vessels of compassion, he's going to have compassion on them, even though they did the same things the vessels are prepared for destruction is doing or did. You're not doing it no more, are we? No, because we've been set apart from the flesh now. So we become a vessel of compassion rather than a vessel prepared for destruction. Okay? And that he might make known the riches of his esteem on vessels of compassion, which he had prepared beforehand. So riches, rewards on those who obey. Vessels that are prepared or compassion for his esteem are going to be delivered from annihilation. Is there anything we can do? Can we approach someone who has a vessel of destruction and witness to them and bring them out of the fire? Can we? No. That's why we don't want to beat our heads against the wall with people, man. All we can do is go share the Basora of Yahusha, and then Yahuwah will do what he wants to do. We plant the seed, we water the seed. Yahuwah is the gardener. He's the one that cultivates it or destroys it. And he already knows who they are. We don't. So we sit there and fight and argue with somebody, or if we get quarreling with friends or family over these things, at a certain point, the Ruach HaKodesh should tell us, stop. This is a vessel of destruction you're talking to. And at that point, we should stop and leave it alone. Because if we don't, we could damage ourselves by keep hammering on this poor person that was made as a vessel of destruction and putting more pain upon them than need be by cutting them with the two-edged sword of truth. And by the way, it is a two-edged sword, and in return, it's going to come back and cut you because you'll be judged by Torah. You're spouting it out to them and torturing them with it. See, there's a fine line, man, on what we're doing. Danny, you got a question, bro? Go ahead.
Yeah. In Ezekiel 33, verse 11, say to them, as I live, declares the Master Yahuwah, I have no pleasure in the death of the wrong, but that the wrong turn from his way and live. Turn back from your evil ways. So I know that if I made an aircraft component and one for a test and one for what I want, one is done. There is no, if he had made vessels for destruction, then this here gives a false hope, doesn't it?
No, not really, because weren't we all vessels for destruction at one time? Were we not all sinners destined to the lake of fire? But for some reason, who woke us up and we became vessels of compassion. And so what I'm saying is, if you're talking to a person that's a sinner and appears to be a vessel of destruction, but all of a sudden you see them listening to you, and all of a sudden they're picking up what you're laying down, they could really be a vessel of compassion in disguise. You just don't know it yet. There's people in these Christian churches and Islam, voodoo, witchcraft, Satanism that appear to be vessels of destruction, but Yahuwah just hasn't called them out yet. When he calls them out, then you're going to see, I made a mistake. These are my brothers and sisters, and they are vessels made for compassion. So we may not know it yet. Yahuwah takes no pride in losing his people. That's why he calls them out. That's why he opens their eyes and ears to understand truth and come out of there and take their rightful place as the son of Yahuwah. If they are made vessels of destruction, they're going to stay there. But he still takes no, he doesn't like seeing people perish, okay? But he made them to perish for why? To show his power, to display his power, to give his esteem, his riches of esteem to the ones that he chose to be with him for eternity. Okay, so is this speaking of everybody, or is this speaking of the ones that are he has no delight in if the ones that are really vessels of compassion being dying? Okay, Because he even says he mourns basically. I don't know if mourns is the right word, but he does not like when one of his elect dies. He gets no pleasure in his elect dying. You ever think about that? He has no pleasure in that.
Could his elect actually die? I mean, if he knew us from the foundations of the earth, then how could his elect fail? How can that possibly be?
Well, us Natsarim refer to it as falling asleep. You know, literally speaking, we say die, but really they are sleeping. And yes, they can fall asleep because the flesh isn't what's being delivered. It's our inner being. So if speaking to what you're asking, and then the short answer is no, because we're going to be woke back up, translated into immortality and live forever. So in Yahuwah's world, we never die. We just fall asleep and he wakes us back up and we go into eternity with him. You know, so in short, no.
Yeah.
Roundabout way, yes. Literally, I would say yes.
I wasn't talking physical. I was talking
spiritual.
Yeah, I mean,
yeah.
The spiritual person the evil person will die. Those who he meant with destruction. But then, how? I mean, it's kind of a very fine line to go from there and not say that we don't have, or we do have free will, which I do believe we have free will. So I think we might be missing something somewhere, and I don't know what it is. I'm just talking.
Okay, so our free will, is perception. So some people say, "Oh, perception's everything," right? So our free will is a perception in our little lifespan, which is very short. So to us, because we're humans and we don't know what Yahuwah knows, we think we have free will, right? But if Yahuwah predestined everything, then why are we saying we have free will? Well, because of lack of knowledge. So we don't understand these things. So in our perception, this carbon copied world we're in, we think we have the free will to do what we do, but the reality is Yahuwah's already seen it all. He knows it all. He's seen it all. He's heard it all. He even knows your thoughts. You don't even have to talk. He knows what you're thinking. He knows the desires of your heart, right? So in our lifetime, we could say we have free will to make a choice between good and evil. We're going to get into a little bit deeper here, as AJ was pointing out, the difference between free will and choice. We're going to get into that just a little bit. Oh, go ahead, Phyllis. Sorry.
I was just wondering if we're not confusing predetermination with he sees the ending from the beginning. Because he knows what the ending is going to be, it seems like he has predetermined what we're going to be, but actually he sees the future like a movie. He saw the movie. He knows what we're going to do. And then he's decided who's going to be in salvation and who isn't.
Yeah, and that's all true. He's seen it all. He's heard it all. He knows exactly what we're going to do before he even made it. So as he saw this movie play out, maybe his thoughts became a matrix, and maybe that's what we're in. I don't know. The mind of Yahuwah is beyond anything we can come up with. But yeah, in our free will, our perception is not his. That everything was made for his pleasure, for him to do. He did what he wanted to do, what he foresaw. He created everything to do what it's going to do. So to him, it's all predestined, pre-planned, made beforehand. He's not surprised of anything, although as he watched through the movie before he created, he was astonished at what men would do if he created them. So don't get that mixed up. People try to point that out. They'll say, oh, Yahuwah was astonished that there was no intercessor for man. It astonished him. He was all astonished when he saw men sacrificing their children on the altar to Molech. It astonished him as well. But it wasn't because he waited after he created everything and he was watching and he saw him doing it and it astonished him. No, it astonished him beforehand when he saw it all played out in front of him before he created anything. He said, wow, if I create them, they're going to sacrifice their children. And it astonished him. So scripture says it did. But yet he went ahead and did it. He went ahead and created all those things. Isaiah tells us he created darkness. He created evil. He said, I, Yahuwah, do all these. Why? Because he set up the game board, man. He's playing a game of life to satisfy himself. It's his will. He wants to do it. He's delighting in it. He's having fun. We don't know the mind of Yahuwah. But it also says those of us that are delivered, he doesn't leave us in this, right? He brings us out. He said our minds can't even comprehend what he has for us after this game's over. We get 6,000 years, play the game. We get 1,000-year bonus round. And it's over. That's the beginning from the end of his creation. He's going to destroy his creation. This is not speaking of everlasting, everlasting. Everlasting is everlasting. It can't be end. It's just the 6,000 years of this creation, plus the 1,000-year bonus round. Okay? So we give ourselves too much credit, too much power, and thinking that we have free will and we can do whatever we want down here. When Yahuwah has already played it all out and seen everything happen before he even created it. That means whatever, all the things that are happening is exactly how he wanted it to happen for whatever reason, or he wouldn't have created it. Did he love all of his creation? You better believe it. So even the evilest people on this planet, he loves. Even if they're vessels of destruction, he still loves them. Is that hard to comprehend? Yeah, because Yahuwah's love is beyond our ability to think about. I had one time years ago asked Yahuwah to show me his love. I said, Yahuwah, give me one drop of your love beyond the maximum amount a man can love. I want to feel your love, just a little tiny bit. Can you do that for me? And it almost killed me. I almost died receiving a little bit of his love. And that's another story. All right, so let's continue on, Yami. This is a hard one to understand, but it's gonna clear up. Okay, stick with it. It's gonna clear up. Let's go, Yami.
All right, verse 26. And it shall be in the place where it was said to them, you are not my people. There they shall be called sons of the living Yahuwah. And Yahu cries out on behalf of Israel, though the number of the children of Israel be as the sand of the sea, the remnant shall be delivered. For he is bringing a matter to an end, and is cutting it short in righteousness, because Yahuwah shall cut short a matter on the Aretz.
Okay, hang on a minute, Yami. Can anybody here explain to us what this means? Though the number of the children of Israel is as the sand of the sea, the remnant shall be delivered. Anybody? Go ahead, Diane.
I'm not certain, but I would think that remnant means small or few. So fewer than the masses that came. For instance, when Yahuwah brought them out of Egypt, thousands of them died because of disobedience and sin, and a remnant of them continued on after that. So I would think that though there were millions of them, only a small portion of them shall be delivered, which is a frightening thing without repentance.
Okay, so this is saying then that replacement theology is a lie. Did the church replace Israel, or was
No.
there? This is showing us that, isn't it? Because a remnant's going to be delivered, right? All right. So there's no way they can be replaced, right?
Right.
Okay. Everybody seeing that? It's leading right up to debunking replacement theology. Totally. They're totally wrong. Okay. We don't get rid of Yisrael. We become Yisrael. Okay. And what's this? Can anybody, and that was good, Diane, you did a good job on that. What is this? For he is bringing a matter to an end and is cutting it short in righteousness, because Yahuwah shall cut short a matter on the Arats. What's that talking about? Anybody got any idea on that one? Go ahead, Rule.
Could it be that he cut it short so some people would survive and there would be a remnant? Is not what they talk at end of times, that he cuts it certain days short, because if not, nobody would survive.
Yeah, precisely. Exactly. Go ahead, Tad.
Yeah, I was just going to add to what Raul just said. If we reference back to Matthew chapter 24, verse 22, and if those yomim were not shortened, no flesh would be delivered. But for the sake of the chosen ones, those yomim shall be shortened.
Exactly. Yeah, so you guys hit that perfectly. So tribulation then, if we understand this correctly, is the final 3.5 years leading up to the return of Yahusha. And so the tribulation years, the 3.5 years, is what? The wrath of Yahuwah? Or is it the wrath of Hashatan? It's the wrath of Hashatan. A lot of people say the tribulation years are the wrath of Yahuwah pouring out the bowls and the trumpets and the seals and everything on the people. The wrath of Yahuwah doing all that. Well, that's incorrect. That's falsehood. That's bad teaching. Okay, the 3.5 years of tribulation is the wrath of Hashatan. Okay, and his anti-Messiah in the world army that's going to try to destroy Israel. Okay, so what is really the wrath of Yahuwah? It's him cutting short the tribulation years, or the wrath of Hashatan, in order to save the remnant, his elect, at the end. If he didn't do that, Hashatan and his army, the anti, would destroy everybody, and no one would be delivered. But for the sake of the elect, he's cutting short the wrath of Hashatan by pouring out the 7 bowls or vials on the anti-Mashiach and his army, and destroying them, punishing them for coming against his people. Some of you might say, oh, Brother Mark, where are you getting that from? Well, let's go to Revelations real quick. Revelation 16, I believe. Revelation 16 is all about the vials and the bowls. It's a very short story of the end times, if you will. The bowls and the vials go straight to the battle of Armageddon. Okay, is what it does. All right, and so here in verse 1 it says, and I heard a loud voice from the temple saying to the 7 messengers, go and pour out the bowls of the wrath of Yahuwah on the Arets. And the first went and poured out his bowl upon the Arets, and an evil and wicked sore came upon the men, those having the mark of the beast, and those worshiping his image. So here we see that the people that are worshiping his image and have received the mark of the beast has already happened. It's already happened because the first bowl comes down and makes those people get big sores on them. That's the very first thing that happens. So we all know who's worshiping the beast at that point, right? Because they're going to have big, giant, open wounds, sores on them, pus and blood coming out all over their bodies. That's the wrath of Yahuwah right there, man. The 7 vials. He's cutting the day short. So the ones that are following the beast are going to get those sores, and we're going to know who they are, worshiping the beast, bowing down to his image, whatever they're doing. See? So that shows us that then he's going to cut Hashatan's time short. The wrath of Yahuwah is going to come upon the anti-Mashiach and his army, and then comes here comes Yahusha, the second coming of Yahusha, right there at the end. That's at the end, man. Very end of the end. Everybody saying that? All right. I know that's getting off on a tangent, but that's what this cutting it short in righteousness, because you shall cut short a matter on the earth. What matter? The matter of Hashatan trying to kill his people, destroy the planet. After the game's over, what's Yahuwah going to do? Anybody know? After everything's over, we have go ahead, Diane.
According to the scriptures, he's going to renew everything.
Not yet. What you gonna do when the 6,000 years are done? Go ahead, Toria.
Judgment begins.
No, he's going to burn the earth and the sky, everything in it, the atmosphere up. He's going to destroy his creation. Game over. Burn it up. Isaiah 24.
So then where does the wedding feast come in?
Well, that's a tangent. Okay, so here briefly from Lou study last night. Like I said, if you haven't watched that, watch it, because Lou covered it very thorough. It was amazing, really, if you didn't get to see it. But basically, we have in the year Yahusha's going to return. Okay, we have the Day of Trumpets, which is tomorrow, and if we hear a trumpet blast, like a shout of a messenger, and here comes Yahusha, right? And that's not going to happen. Why do we know that's not going to happen? Because Armageddon hasn't got here yet. Okay, the war has to start. It has to be 2 big wars, and they're probably both going to be nuclear. All right, so the trumpet tomorrow, that's ushers in the return of, here comes the return of Yahusha. It goes 10 days. It starts off dark, progressively gets to light, to where there's full light 10 days later on Kafar. At that point on Kafar, or the fast, these are the 10 days of awe, is what they call them. A lot of stuff is going to be happening, obviously. For one thing, the anti-Mashiach and the false prophet are going to be thrown in the lake of fire. Or Yahushua's going to return. He's going to destroy the army of the anti-Mashiach, right? Big old crater's going to come, earthquake, split the Mount of Olives open, the army's going to fall down in it, right? And a lot of things are going to be happening. People are going to be running around scared to death, for one thing, dropping like flies from fear. And so the 10 days of Al comes up to Kafar, which would be the fast or the Day of Atonement. It's the last day, okay, that we can be delivered. And so at this point, when the last trumpet blows, it starts off on trumpets, it ends on Kafar. Another trumpet blows, okay? That signals the end of the fast. Kafar is over. When the door closes or the gate closes, no one can be delivered after that. So at that point, people can be running around just calling on the name of Yahuwah and are going to be delivered, even up to the last seconds of Kafar. But as soon as that last trumpet blasts, signaling Kafar's over, no more deliverance. Doors shut, man. Done. Then you got 5 days, 2 tabernacles, and this is and then at this point, when the marriage supper comes, Danny, is debatable. There's different people think different things. Some believe that that's when the supper is. Okay, so the first day of tents or booths is the day Yahushua was born. It goes through the 7 days, okay, the tabernacles. Some people believe that's the wedding feast. Some people do not. You know, and then of course the 8th day, which is the last day of tabernacles, is called the last great day, or the grand finale, if you will, okay, is the day that we don't stay in booths anymore. You stay in your booths for the first 7. On the 8th day, Yahushua was circumcised by instruction, by Torah instruction, right? And then, so this is putting off the flesh for Yahushua. So that 8th day, we do not stay in our booths. Well, just on the first 7. Why? Don't we stay in that booth on that 8th day, the great last day? Because we are celebrating immortality. We are no longer in our fleshly bodies. Now we're in spiritual bodies, immortal bodies. Okay, so we're celebrating immortality. That's why we don't stay in those tents on the 8th day. We're no longer in the flesh. We have immortal bodies now on that 8th day. So some people think that and then after that is when the wedding feast comes, after the millennium reign. Some people believe the wedding feast comes after the day of Yahuwah. But the problem with that is we have 1,000 years of millennium reign left, where people are still going to be multiplying and procreating, and the population is going to explode, and they are all going to still be in the flesh, except for the first resurrection group, which will have already gotten their immortal bodies. You see? And so there's scripture that says that the wrong won't see the bride and going to see the new city. Okay? So there's going to be wrong during the millennium reign. How do we know? Because people are going to still die. So there has to be sin present. Plus, the devil's going to be released after the end of the 1,000 years. And when the devil's released, he's going to gather a large army again, Magog again, and come against the camp of the Kadeshim. And then Yahuwah is going to say, ain't going to happen. And he takes Satan, the devil, and his army and throws all of them into the lake of fire right there and then. So then what? Where's the judgment? The judgment can't happen until after all the flesh the end of the age has come of man. So that would be at the end of the age of man. Would it not? Yeah, at the end of the millennium reign, because flesh is going to be around under the millennium reign. So therefore, Judgment Day, and then Tabernacles that year after the judgment of everybody ever lived, and then maybe be the wedding feast. And after all the wrongs been thrown in the lake of fire, and he's restored everything, there's a renewed heaven and a new Shemayim. Or is he going to just have the wedding feast and then the seven thunders will rumble? We'll hear the seven thunders, the 7 days of creation, the 7 columns come back. And we get to watch his new creation as he makes it all new again. We get to cheer and jump up and down and have joy like the Melachim did the first time around. Because it's going to be eternal. It's never going to be destroyed again. See, a lot of different things, Danny, in order to determine that. Reading scripture diligently, hopefully you come up with an opinion on it on your own and say what you think. I have my opinion. Doesn't mean it has to be yours. It's not in concrete. Nobody knows everything and how exactly it's going to play out. Okay, we all may agree on some on it, and the others not, and it's okay. It's okay because nobody knows the exact format, but we do get a really great outline through the appointed times, because that's all a shadow of the redemption plan of Yahusha. So we know by the appointed times, at least we get a clear outline. Okay, so I better get off of that tangent. We'll be on there all day. Okay, anybody else before we keep going?
I am.
I got to keep you muted, Maria, unless you want to talk, so that we don't get echoes. Anybody else? I'm back on what we were just talking about the remnant. Okay, let's go ahead with it then. Yami, just finish it off.
All right.
25.
25.
29.
29. And as Yahweh said before, if Yahuwah Sabaoth had not left us a seed, we would have become like Sodom, and we would have been made like Amorah. What shall we say then? That nations not following after righteousness have obtained righteousness, even the righteousness of belief? But Israel, following after the Torah of righteousness, has not arrived at the Torah of righteousness. Why? Because it was not of belief, but as by works of Torah. For they stumbled at the stone of stumbling, as it has been written, see, I lay in Zion a stone of stumbling and a rock that makes the falling, and everyone who is believing on him shall not be put to shame.
Thank you, Yami. Okay, so this is kind of important. Who is the stone of stumbling? Anybody know? You can't hear me?
You're very garbled, Mark.
Okay, hang on, let me go out.
And the stone of stumbling was Yahushua HaMashiach.
Can you hear me better now? How about now? Can you hear me now? Wow. Okay,
We can hear you, but you're still very garbled.
Hello. How about now? Okay. That was really weird. I had to go out and come back in. Okay. The stone of stumbling is Yahusha, put in a stumbling block for who? Israel. Why? So that others, through their stumbling, others can believe and be delivered. Kind of weird, isn't it? But why? Because he breaks off a lot of the natural branches in order to engraft in wild branches. So here he's choosing between his elect through the seed of Yitzhak to other folks that are more obedient, even though they weren't his people. He's bringing them in and making them his people and getting rid of the ones that are disobedient, rebellious, and stubborn. Pretty wild, isn't it? So did he get rid of Israel? No. He just cleaned it up and expanded upon it. It's amazing. It really is amazing when you think about that, what he's doing there. And as we read on, that'll become a lot clearer. If you want to read Isaiah 28:14, it really talks about the stone of stumbling. Quite a bit. Let's just go there. Isaiah 28. Isaiah 28:14. It says, "Therefore hear the word of Yahuwah, you men of scorn, who rule this people who are in Jerusalem, because you have said, we have made a covenant with death." So they're worshiping death, man. Man, I say people worship death. They do. We have made a covenant with death, and with the grave we have effected a vision. When the overflowing scourge passes through, it does not come to us, for we have made lying our refuge, and under falsehood we have hidden ourselves. So by worshiping death and lies and teaching falsehood and deceiving people, they think they're going to be saved by what? Hashatan's wrath in the tribulation years. Is that incredible? Is that incredible? Therefore, thus said the Master Yahuwah, see, I am laying in Zion a stone for a foundation. So Yahusha is our foundation, okay? And a tried stone, a precious cornerstone, a settled foundation. He who trusts shall not hasten away. So here we find out that Yahusha is the cornerstone, the foundation, tried stone, the precious cornerstone. He's everything. Yahusha is always everything. And so that right there kind of explains to us here why Yahusha is considered the stone of stumbling for his people in order to bring others in that he's choosing. So is there a free will? Doesn't sound like it. Sounds like Yahuwah brings them in who he wants to. He gets rid of who he wants. He breaks it off. It's fruitless, bad fruit, no fruit. Bundles it up for a fire, brings in another branch that has good fruit on it or producing good fruit. Sounds like he's the gardener. He's the one doing the pruning. Doesn't it not? It's not us doing it for sure. Go ahead, Dad.
I just had a quick question. Wasn't Yahusha the stumbling block to the nations as well, or is that just to those people that were in the nations that haven't been recognized as Yisrael yet? That's my question.
Yeah, I would say that it has nothing to do with the nations, except for the ones he calls out. You know, when he calls them out, they have to engraft into Israel, and he has a place for them to engraft into the olive tree. You know what I'm saying? So most of them, not all of them, but I would say the vast majority of them are from the scattered tribes. They're the lost sheep. There's a few Gentiles coming in, you know, but I think the vast majority of them, and by far, are the scattered sheep that's out there in the nations, and he's waking them up and grafting them in back into Israel as the remnant, you know, scattered around. And he knows who his sheep are from the foundations of the earth. You know, so I mean, does that answer your question, Ted, or do I need to elaborate a little bit more on that? You good? All right.
Yeah, you did good, Mark. Thank you.
Okay. Do we have a reader for 10? AJ? Go.
Yeah, I'd like to give it a try.
All right, bro.
Truly, my brothers, my heart's desire and prayer to Yahuwah for Israel is for deliverance. For I bear them witness that they have an ardor for Yahuwah, but not according to knowledge. For not knowing the righteousness of Yahuwah and seeking to establish their own righteousness, they did not subject themselves to the righteousness of Yahuwah. For Mashiach is the goal of the Torah to righteousness to everyone who believes. For Moshe writes about the righteousness which is of the Torah. The man who does these shall live by them. But the righteousness of belief speaks in this way. Do not say in your heart, who shall ascend into Shamayim? That is, to bring Mashiach down. Or who shall descend into the abyss? That is, to bring Mashiach up from the dead. But what does it say? The word is near you, in your mouth and in your heart. That is the word of belief, which we proclaim. That if you confess with your mouth the Master Yahushua and believe in your heart that Yahuwah has raised him from the dead, you shall be saved, you shall be delivered. For with the heart one believes to righteousness, and one professes with the mouth, and so is delivered. Because the scripture says, whoever puts his trust in him shall not be put to shame. Because there is no distinction between Yahudi and Greek, for the same master of all is rich to all those calling upon him. For everyone who calls on the name of Yahuwah shall be delivered.
Okay, hang on. Gotta mute you, bro. Okay. Can anyone elaborate on that for us a little bit? It seems to be saying here that everyone who calls on the name of Yahuwah shall be delivered. And then farther up, he's saying that they're proclaiming the Besorah, they're proclaiming to everybody and whatnot, is to confess with your mouth the Master Yahushua and believe in your heart that Yahushua has been raised from the dead, and you shall be delivered. And then for with the heart one believes to righteousness, and one professes with the mouth, and so is delivered. Anyone who put trust in him shall not be put to shame. There's no distinction. the master of all is rich to all those calling upon him, for everyone calls on the name of Yahushua. Can somebody explain that to us? Where's water immersion at here? Where's confession? Where's repentance? Where's the immersion of the Ruach here in this formula that we're hearing from Pop? Can anybody elaborate on that for me, please? Explain that to us.
Mark, I don't know if this is even close, but it just seems like there'll be different levels of responsibility given to different people, and more responsibility to given to those who are given us knowledge. So maybe that's what it is. I've struggled with this myself, but I think that might be what it is. It'll be, you know, we'll be in charge of things, others won't, because of our obedience and he has to draw us to this anyway. We can't do it on our own. So I don't know if that helps at all. Thanks.
Thanks, Phil. Anybody else want to elaborate on that at all? To help us understand that? Anybody? Well, one thing that pops into my mind, other than I agree with what Phil said, is that going back to Yahuwah will have compassion on whoever he wants to have compassion, have favor on whoever he wants to have favor. You know, and so this right here, plus the robber on the stake being delivered, shows us that there's more than one way to be delivered. There's not no strict formula that we have to follow to be delivered. There's other avenues of approach available to us in order to enter the reign of Yahuwah. Is that not what this is telling us? Is everybody else getting that out of that? I mean, it seems to be. And that part that's at number 13, that says, for everyone who calls on the name of Yahuwah shall be delivered, reminds me a whole lot about the last few minutes of Kafar. All they got to do is scream out for his name and for deliverance, and he's going to save them within seconds of the gate shutting. Go ahead, Toria.
Also, Mashiach Yahusha is the water. He is our washing, our cleansing, our purifying of our vessel.
Yeah, and maybe that's why we have to control our tongue, like you were talking earlier, Mark, about we don't know who's going to get in, and we certainly don't want to assume anything. That's up to him. So that really spoke to me, because there are some times I say things, not maybe directly, but I may think things that, they're going to the lake of fire and I should not be doing that. So if there's anything I got out of this morning, which is a lot always, is that. And I was pretty upset in my spirit about it, and I was convicted, and I thank you for everybody addressing that issue. And that's what these meetings are for, to purify us and to, draw us closer to the Father. He's speaking to me. He spoke to me with that, and I truly confess before men, for women, that I do think that sometimes, and that's not my place. So once again, the learning curve is huge, and now I have a smile on my face after telling you all. So thank you.
Thanks for that, Phil. Go ahead, Toria.
I was also thinking too that even in our last breath, there's deliverance. One could be on their deathbed, like the one who was on the stake. It was his last breath. He was delivered. All can be delivered in your last breath.
Yeah, outstanding. Yeah, I believe so too. There's definitely different avenues here of deliverance for sure. There's no set and concrete formula. Okay. And we remember when we studied Acts, we found out it doesn't have to happen in order either. There's no precise order of it either, right? Somebody can get the Ruach before they get water immersed, right? We found that out. But I liked what you said, Toria, when you said about the living waters, that is the Ruach HaKodesh. not only is Yahusha the living waters that can immerse us with water, he is also the life-giving water, the living waters of the Ruach as well. And so he can give us both immersions by himself with no activity of our own, just by him, right? He can immerse us in water and then Ruach just by himself, just with his presence. That's amazing, man, but so true. And that was an outstanding thought, really, that you brought up there. I ate that up like candy. Very good. Anybody else?
And I wanted to say one more thing. I hurt my ankle training the other day, and I don't know how I even did it. And I woke up Friday morning, and I walked out to go to the gym to train, and I looked out on my lawn. And I thought, man, I got to mow this lawn. I don't know how I'm going to do it because it'd just be too hard on me. So it's uneven ground. You know, it's a lot better now. Of course, he's healing it. But anyway, when I came home that night, my neighbor had mowed my lawn. And so he knows our thoughts. Obviously, we know that. But I didn't even have to ask him. All I said in my mind was, I don't know how I'm going to mow this lawn. And my neighbor came over and did it for me. So didn't even ask him.
Well, that's amazing. Somebody else had their hand up. Who was it? Toria? Did you have your hand back up? Oh, Tad. Did you have your hand up, Tad?
Yeah, I just wanted to thank Brother Phil for his comments, you know, because I don't believe there's any one of us that has, you know, throughout our lives not at least had a passing thought like he had and been convicted of that. And so I thank you, Brother Phil, for bringing that up. And, you know, I think it brings clarity to a lot of us, and, you know, and shows us what we're doing, and, you know, that we have been convicted, like you said, and that we need to pray about that. And you know, maybe not think that way. So thank you. Appreciate it.
All right. Anybody else? If not, AJ, please continue on, brother.
I guess I'm at 14, verse 14. How then shall they call on him in whom they have not believed? And how shall they believe in him whom they have not heard? And how shall they hear without one proclaiming? And how shall they proclaim if they are not sent? As it has been written, how pleasant are the feet of those who bring the Basora of peace, who bring the Basora of the good. However, not all obey the Basora. For Yisrael says, Yahuwah, who has delivered our report. So then, belief comes by hearing, and hearing by the word of Yahuwah.
Okay, hang on. Okay, so this is interesting here. So belief comes by hearing, right? Not by reading, but by hearing. And hearing by the word of Yahuwah. So hearing the word of Yahuwah, the teaching of Yahuwah, right? So that's what they're hearing. They have to hear the word of Yahuwah spoken in their ears before it penetrates their thick skull. That's why it's important that we read scriptures to other people. They can't learn it, man, by just talking to them. You got to read it to them. That's what it just told us. They have to hear it read in their ears in order to receive it. So you need to read the Basor of Yahuwah to people out of the word of truth. Go ahead, Ted.
Just real quick, I just wanted to say that reminds me completely of Philip and the eunuch. That's all.
Yeah, that's a good comparison. A good example of that. Yeah, so it's extremely important. Now, notice that these two previous verses are extracted verses from Isaiah. You know, who brings the Basora of good? Now pleasant are the feet. That's Isaiah 52:7. And the next verse down, Yahuwah who has believed our report, is Isaiah 53:1. And so what does that tell us? If it's written in the Natsarim writings here, what they're calling the New Testament, then how can it be abolished? It's being quoted here. It can't be. If we abolish the Torah, it don't mean nothing, then we need to take these verses straight out of Romans and trash can them. They shouldn't even be written down here if they're irrelevant. So they're not. So that means the Torah is not abolished. It's relevant. You see what I'm saying? All the verses that we've read here so far in these two chapters are all quotes out of the Tanakh. So how can the Tanakh be abolished or irrelevant? It cannot be. That's a straight up lie, man. Because we're reading the Tanakh. I mean, I'd say almost half of what we just read was read out of the Tanakh. Although it was found in the Natsarim writings. Everybody on board? Okay, let's go, man. Go ahead, Jay.
Here? Yes, indeed. Their voice went out to all the arrest, and their words to the ends of the world. But I asked, did Yisrael not know? First, Moshe said, I shall provoke you to jealousy by those who are not a nation. I shall enrage you by an unwise nation. And Yisrael boldly says, I was found by those, Yeshayahu, and Yeshayahu boldly says, I was found by those not seeking me. I was made manifest by those not asking for me. And to Yisrael, he says, all yom long I have stretched out my hand to a disobedient and descending people. Guess that's what that is.
All righty. Okay, so this is some interesting stuff too here. Hebrew, ends of the world, and their words to the voice went out to all the rest in the world. So, yeah, the Israelites are the ones that gave us the Basora, the Tanakh and the Basora, and taught us that they were one. So there's value in Israel. I mean, if it wasn't for them, we'd all be in trouble, right? If it wasn't for the one. Right? Remember that? So, yeah, they're still Yahuwah's elect. But here it's saying that it's Moshe prophesies basically that he'd Yahuwah provoke them to jealousy. Those are not a nation, which are the Gentiles or even the scattered tribes, and shall emerge you in an unwise nation, enrage you by an unwise nation. So he's provoking their jealousy to bring more of them into belief. And this unwise nation could be even speaking about Christianity. It's a possibility of that. That it's speaking of that. But nevertheless, they see us, the older brother sees us obeying and celebrating the appointed times and being joyful and having a relationship, and it provokes them to jealousy and gets them trying to seek out what's the source of our joy? What's the source of our anticipation? Why are we so happy about Yahuwah? and things like that. And so to bring more of them back into the fold. And it's just it's an amazing thing that Yahuwah does, really. When I was found by those not seeking me, I was made manifest or revealed to those not asking for me. Obviously, are the ones outside of Israel, Gentiles. And to Yahushua, he says, all day long I have stretched out my hands to a disobedient, descending people. Well, we all know what disobedient is. It's unrighteousness, okay, which could also be rebellion. Rebellion is as witchcraft. It could include stubbornness, not to obey. That would be like idolatry, if you will. And so here we have descending people, which is kind of like with different viewpoints. They may have a more of a religious viewpoint than we do, descending people. So they find more pleasure in obeying men, obeying the Talmud, obeying men's traditions than they do obeying Yahuwah's commands. So they're just descending people. They take pride or joy in other opinions other than Yahuwah's type deal. Okay. And so, yes, they're messed up, but so are we. And now we find out that without them, we couldn't be who we are. We need them. They need us. And chapter 11 explains this pretty dramatically. So we get into 11 now. We get to understand and study about how to engraft. How do Gentiles engraft? What happens? And is it a fact that we do have to engraft? Because if it is actually true that we must engraft into Israel, what does that mean? Go ahead, AJ.
One thing I find interesting, just making a statement, going back to verse 9 in there, when Shaul states who he is. I heard for a long time, Paul was a Christian. Yochanan was a Christian. I don't think Yochanan made it to Rome. That's just my opinion. But Shaul, he makes a statement all through 9, 10, and 11. Who he is, his ancestors, his birth, plainly. And somebody else will read 11 to go into that engrafting, but it's the foundation of who we are as believers. We are no longer what we used to be once Yahushua steps into our life. And I spoke to a young person one day, a believer, as far as they knew. We cannot think of ourselves walking with Yahushua as grown people. That's one of our problems in relating to each other sometimes. He always calls us lost sheep or children. Me, myself, I'm trying to work on me. I have no thoughts of trying to push things over on somebody else. Not only that don't want it, but do want it. But the ones that want it, you have no problem with them. It's just like our families. If we stay as children, maybe the things that we say will be more acceptable to them. Instead of us being grown, well, I'm 75, I'm 68, I'm 29, I'm grown. I told a young person one day, when we call ourselves grown, I think that's the opposite of obedience. Because if we call ourselves grown, why should I listen to Yah? Why should I listen to my mother? Why should I listen to my aunt or somebody in authority? Because I'm grown. If we stop being grown, maybe we can hear something. That's all I got to say about that one.
Powerful testimony there, brother.
Awesome, AJ. You're right on.
Okay, man. Let's get into 11 now so we can finish up for the day. This is the most important chapter that we've read so far, in my opinion. Go ahead, Ted. You want to read it? Go ahead.
Okay, chapter 11. I say then, has Yahuwah rejected his people? Let it not be.
Okay, stop.
For I,
Stop. That
Yep.
that verse right there alone debunks replacement theology. I mean, we can stop thinking about that now just off that verse. But let's go ahead. We got a powerful message here coming on us now by the Ruach. Let's listen up.
For I also am a Yisraelite, of the seed of Abraham, of the tribe of Benjamin. Yahuwah has not rejected his people, whom he knew beforehand. Or do you not know what the scripture says of Eliyahu, how he pleads with Yahuwah against Yisrael, saying, Yahuwah, they have killed your prophets and overthrown your altars, and I alone am left, and they seek my life. But what does the answer of Yahuwah say to him? I have left for myself 7,000 men who have not bowed the knee to Baal.
Okay, hang on a minute. First of all, let me say hallelujah to that and amen. Look, if you want to read about that, it's in 1 Kings 19, verses 14 and 18. Okay. And I stopped us here just because this next verse is something we're going to go back to what we were just talking about a little bit with AJ. But the main thing here is what we need to understand is we're not alone in this. We're not alone, people. First of all, Yahuwah is with us. Yahusha's in us. We're not alone. And he has more people out there. Let's put it this way. There's more people on our side than there is against us. You guys digest that for a while. There's more with us than against us. Okay? So don't feel alone. All right? Very powerful thing here. The verse 2, Yahuwah has not rejected his people whom he knew beforehand. Before he created anything, he knew where they were. He hasn't rejected them because he chose them before he created anything. That right there blows replacement theology totally out of the water. I don't know why Christians miss that. Okay, so there we go now. Read that next verse there, Ted, and we're going to talk about it for a minute.
So therefore also, at this present time, a remnant, according to the choice of favor, has come to be.
Okay, so there you go. Do we have free will, or do we have choice of favor? Are we allowed to choose between good and evil, between life and death? Can we worship life, or can we choose to worship death? Like it just told us that people do. Yeah, we have that choice. And Yahuwah already knows what that choice is. He knew that in counsel before he created us. He knew us before he created us. We agreed to choose life under his conditions. That's why we became his elect beforehand. Is anything too powerful for Yahuwah? No. Could he have created us in a matrix and talked to us and we agreed to our life before he created us in a carbon copied world? Yes. We don't know what he did. We do not know the power of Yahuwah. You see what I'm saying here? So AJ, elaborate on this again for us, brother. You told us that we didn't really have a free will, but we did have a choice of favor. And here's proof of what you spoke. Would you like to elaborate a little bit more on that? This is what I told you I was going to come back to you on.
Our choice, we choose to live if we believe in Yahuwah and his words, and believe his word that whatever he promised, he would do. Some might not believe it. I don't speak to Christians that way because years ago I thought I was a Christian until the Father set me apart. Then I found out I was not a Christian because that was put together by the doctrine of men. So he wiped that away from me and had me to see. It's like when you're in the mix of something, you can't see what you're into until you pull away from it. It's like walking on the other side of the street and turning around and seeing where you came from. Now your eyes are open, your heart is open. You can see that you were going wrong. You can see all the things you were taught that were wrong. And yes, it's hard once you come into the knowledge of real truth. But you got to break away. You got to leave those things behind. And it's just mind-blowing sometimes. But our choices can either kill us or save us. That's all I know right now about the choices. We live by choices. I do know that because we could choose to lay in the bed all day and do nothing. Or else we can get up and choose to get up and go to work. Go be kind to a neighbor. Go help someone. Yes, I think we live more by choices. And that's what the Father looked at, our choices. Just like we chose him when the truth came to us. We didn't choose the wrong, we chose him. And I believe it helps us that Yahushua came to us to give us that opportunity. Going back to the man that was on the stake with Yahuwah. It wasn't no water immersion, just like Toria said. Yahushua saw the man's heart, his inner being, and he said, yes, he is the water, he is the truth, and he's the light. And he comes into our heart when we agree and believe. It goes beyond faith. Belief is the foundation when we choose rightly.
Thank you, AJ. All right, guys, I hope we're all picking up what AJ's laying down here now. So the free will is not ours because it's let Yahuwah's will be done, right? It's his will that he even created us. It wasn't our will to be created, right? But we do have choices in our lifetime. And these choices have to do with life and death. Okay? Everybody's seeing it now. So people, they're getting the free will mixed up with choice of favor that has come to be through the remnant of his people. Again, not everybody, just as the remnant gets to choose. The vessels are made for destruction. Choice has been made for them. Obviously, they're choosing death. They worship death. Why do you think these people running around with skulls of people, human brains, the human skulls and stuff? and demons and all this other stuff. They're worshiping death. Why do they go to graveyards and have seances and hang crosses that are grave markers on their walls and so forth and so on? Man, they're worshiping death. Satan's doomed to be put to death in the lake of fire along with the anti and the false prophet and the beast, right? So you're following them. What are you doing? You're following death. People worship death. It's insane, but they do. Okay, so we get that choice, and I think all of us here have chose life, right? And, Yahusha even said, anyone who hates me loves death. So, and he's kind of giving us a hint there of that as well, So, thank you, AJ, again. That was very powerful stuff, brother. I hope everybody got a handle on that one. If not, it's go over our heads real fast. Okay. Ted, let's go ahead, man.
Picking up at verse 6, and if by favor, it is no longer of works. Otherwise, favor is no longer favor. And if it is of works, it is no longer favor. Otherwise, work is no longer work. What then? Yisrael has not obtained what it seeks, but the chosen did obtain it, and the rest were hardened. As it has been written.
Hold a minute, Ted. Ted,
gotcha.
Explain that to us, what you just read in 6 and 7. But the chosen did not obtain it, and the rest were hardened. Did obtain it, but the rest were hardened. So Yahuwah hardened their heart like he did Pharaoh's, but the chosen did obtain it. Israel has not obtained what it seeks. No, but the chosen did obtain it. So see, all of Israel wasn't disobedient. So it astounds us. There were some in Israel that weren't disobedient. People like to put all of Israel into a basket and say they were all disobedient. No, they weren't. It just says here that some were not, that they did obtain it. I mean, wasn't Yahushua one? Wasn't his first century followers, the apostles that they call them, weren't they? Didn't they obtain it? Didn't Paul obtain it? Yes. So it's not true. Some did obtain it. Go ahead and explain that verse 6 to us, Tad. What do you get out of that, brother?
What I get out of it is, well, it's kind of confusing, but it says, if by favor it is no longer of works, it has something to do with them thinking, I believe, this is what I get out of it, that they think that the Torah itself could have saved them. That's what I get out of it's no longer of works.
Okay, now explain to us what part of the Torah you're talking about.
That one I'm not really sure.
Okay. I'm sorry I muted you. Okay. So okay, Raymond, I'm going to get right to you. This is where Christianity goes a lot. Why does they go here a lot? To try to prove that all you have to do is believe. Because of what Ted just said. It's confusing. That's why they go there. They know it's hard for you to understand what they're saying, so they can twist it and turn it any way they want and spin it. And you might, if you're not familiar with scripture, you ain't gonna know what they're talking about. Okay, somebody had their hands up.
Yeah, it was I, and I was gonna say that I thought it's a part of the Torah that has to do with circumcision, with all the stuff that they try to make you see that you don't need to do anymore. I know that circumcision you don't, but you do have to follow Sabbath and all that, and some people just don't do that anymore.
Okay, yeah. So this is where Paul's writings are hard to understand, because he uses works here he's not specific. Okay. And so the specific works that Paul's talking about here is what Ro just said: male adult circumcision, and what else? Animal blood sacrificing. They're following the Torah of the old priesthood. See, that's why Paul gets everybody, messed up, because he's so vague and general in his speaking. He's just assuming they know what he knows. That's what he's doing. When you assume people know what you know and you talk to them about, say, your trade, what you do for a living, and you think they're understanding you because you understand what you're saying, but they're sitting there and they're clueless. They got an idea what you're talking about. And this is what's happening with Paul. He's just assuming that people know what he's saying, but they don't, because he's being too general, too vague in his speech. Okay, so with that in mind, let's read it again. And if by favor, Yahuwah's favor, he can deliver whoever he wants, right? So it is no longer of works. What works? Well, male circumcision and blood animal offering, sacrifices. Otherwise, favor is no longer a favor. Otherwise, it's not a favor from Yahuwah. You would be earning it through performing animal sacrifices or circumcising yourself. And if it is of works, it is no longer a favor. Otherwise, work is no longer work. Otherwise, the works that you're doing wouldn't be categorized as works. There wouldn't be no differential there. See what I'm saying? It would be just blend together, one big blob. What then? Israel has not obtained what it seeks? Yes, it did. But the chosen did obtain it, so a remnant did obtain it, and the rest were hardened by Yahuwah on purpose so he could bring other people into the covenant. That's what that verse is all about, man. Danny, did you have something to say, brother? Somebody had their hand up, didn't they? No? Oh, Toria, go ahead.
I'm seeing it as in it's favor is what he's given us as we have belief. We have belief, so we have been shown favor. Because it says it's not by our works alone, but it's by our belief. So there's also where it says that without belief, your works are dead. So for me, I'm seeing it as our belief for those who are seeking him have that favor, because those who aren't seeking are dead. That their works would also be dead. I just see it as it's all about his children who are seeking him in belief is what I see. That's it.
I'm glad you brought that up. The reason I'm glad Toria brought that up is because it opens our eyes to understand that when Paul says works, or even James in this case, it doesn't always mean circumcision or blood offering. And what she was just bringing up is your belief without your works is dead. That particular works is not about male circumcision or about blood offering. That's about your obedience and bringing love into action. You see? But yet they use the same word, works. So that leaves us to try to understand, well, what's he talking about when he says works? And most people make a huge mistake into thinking that covers everything and all you have to do to believe. Well, the demons believe, but they don't obey. See? So even though we're using works, in the context the works is being used in is meaning something different. We have many words like that in our vocabulary. It's the same exact word, spelled exactly the same, but when you use it in this sentence and use it over here in this sentence, it means totally something else, but it's the exact same word. And that's what we're finding out here. But on top of it, especially in Paul's case, he generalizes it and leaves it so vague that it leaves us scratching our heads. And that's what Peter was talking about. So, man, Paul's writings are hard to understand sometimes, you know. Okay, so that's what it is in James, where it says your belief without works is dead, talking about obedience or putting love in action. In this case here in Paul's writings, he's speaking of ceremonial laws of hands, you know, doing stuff to try to make yourself more pious or deliver yourself by acts of your hands, like circumcising yourself or sacrificing an animal or doing some other ritual. See, and it's not going to do nothing for you, because your belief is, first of all, is a gift, and your deliverance is a gift, and you've been found in favor of Yahuwah through his compassion for you and his love, his everlasting love for you. You don't think Yahuwah loves you if he's brought you into the covenant? You better believe he loves you. You don't care what you do. He says, I love that person. I'm bringing them with me into the covenant. Ain't nothing else in that equation except Yahuwah's will. That's it. So I hope this is a hard one. This is one that Christians like to use. And I hope everybody has a clear understanding of what I'm saying here now. You don't have to agree with me, but I hope you understand the presentation, what I'm trying to explain here. Okay? All right, Dad, let's go.
Okay, picking up in verse 8. As it has been written, Yahuwah has given them a ruach of deep sleep, eyes not to see and ears not to hear, to this yom. Daud also says, let their table become for a snare and for a trap, and for a stumbling block, and a recompense to them. Let their eyes be darkened, not to see, and bow down their back always. I say then, have they stumbled that they should fall? Let it not be. But by their fall, deliverance has come to the nations, to provoke them to jealousy. Okay,
hang on. Okay, so that pretty much explains everything we've been talking about, right, on this chapter. So I think we all can got an understanding that it was pretty clear, really. Paul was pretty clear on that. And so the thing that amazes me here, and I used to stumble on this quite a bit, and I finally got an idea of it, was why in the world would King Daud put a curse on his people like this? You ever think about that? Let their table become a snare and for a trap and for a stumbling block and recompense to them. Let their eyes be dark and not to see and bow down their backs always. Why is he putting that on his people? Anybody know? It's almost like he's cursing his own people, doesn't it? I used to sit there and say, why is he saying that about his brothers and sisters in Israel? You know, but what I had come to realize is that he's doing this because he understands the increase in the reign of Yahuwah if this happens. He understands Yahuwah's plan, and he understands that Yahuwah is doing this to his people so that a lot more people can be delivered than just them. And so he's going with the majority. Oh, you mean 1 million can come in versus only 10,000? Oh, well, let the 1 million be saved. Have your will, Yahuwah. Let their table be a snare. You see it? So he's acknowledging Yahuwah's will and his plan of deliverance for his election before the foundations. So Daud's getting it, man. He's getting it. That's why it sounds like he's turned his back on his people, but he has not. Okay, and then we'll find out why here shortly, because it opens up. Okay, go ahead, Ted.
Picking up in verse 12, and if their fall is riches for the world, and their failure riches for the nations, how much more their completeness? For I speak to you, the nations, inasmuch as I am an emissary to the nations, I esteem my service. If somehow I might provoke to jealousy those who are my flesh and save some of them. For if their casting away is the restoration to favor of the world, what is their acceptance but life from the dead? Now, if the first fruit is set apart, the lump is also. And if the root is set apart, so are the branches. And if some of the branches were broken off, and you, being a wild olive tree, have been grafted in among them, and came to share the root and fatness of the olive tree, do not boast against those branches. And if you boast, remember, you do not bear the root, but the root bears you. You shall say then, the branches were broken off that I might be grafted in. Good. By unbelief they were broken off, and you stand by belief. Do not be arrogant, but fear. For if Yahuwah did not spare the natural branches, he might not spare you either. See then the kindness and sharpness of Yahuwah. On those who fell, sharpness, but toward you, kindness. If you continue in his kindness, otherwise you also shall be cut off. And they also, if they do not continue in unbelief, shall be grafted in. For Yahuwah is able to graft them in again. For if you were cut out of the olive tree, which is wild by descent, and were grafted contrary to conventional descent into a good olive tree, how much more shall these, who are the cultivated branches, be grafted into their own olive tree? For I do not wish you to be ignorant of this secret, brothers, lest you should be wise in your own estimation, that hardening in part has come over Yisrael, until the entirety of the nations has come in.
Okay, hang on now. All right. So I'll just let that roll because I wanted y'all to absorb that in a whole, you know. But this is obviously speaking to us now that there's going to be some engrafting going on. And Yahuwah is going to be breaking and pruning his olive tree of the natural branches. He's going to be engrafting wild branches on it. Okay, and so this is how we come into the covenant. This is how we become Israel, folks. You know, we have to be engrafted in. And if you notice, he continues on and says, well, you know what? I engrafted you in, but you're not producing any fruit. So you're a bad tree. Okay, you haven't becoming part of the natural tree. You're still in a wild. Take it back off and take one of the natural branches and put it back in where it was, because they've begun to believe now. And so I say, oh, you're believing now? Here, let me get rid of this non-producer. I'll put you back where you belong. See how Yahuwah works, man? I mean, it's marvelous what he's doing here. This right here, this chapter 11, Christians hate it. Matter of fact, I'll say it's the forbidden chapter for Christians. It's hard to get them to this chapter. Why? Because it blows replacement theology totally out of the water. They have not a leg to stand on when they read this chapter. Okay? Their religion's over. Somebody got a question? Gibson girl? You pointing to somebody?
Yeah, I thought Danny had his hand up.
Danny, you got your hand up? Danny? He must have stepped out for a moment. Okay. This is extremely important to understand. Okay, so which is a wild by descent. Okay, which means the olive tree, which is all by descent, doesn't bear any fruit. Its roots are shallow. It can be blowed over, pulled up easily. If it does have fruit, it's very little, and they're usually smaller and harder. And it's not really good fruit, but most of the time they don't. Danny, did you have a question, man? Danny, you had your hand up? No? Okay. You must have clicked off. Okay. And so then a good olive tree is one that produces good fruit, and it's got deep roots, and it lives for a long time. Olive trees live over like, I don't know, a couple thousand years, or I mean, I think they can live forever. I don't know. They live a long time, man. Matter of fact, it's illegal to chop one down because they live so long. You know. The only way they can get olive wood tree is by one that's already died on its own. Not allowed to chop them down and harvest the wood from an olive tree. So anyway, this is what that's talking about. Okay. Anybody got any comments or questions about this? This is something that we need to understand very clearly. We're all good on that? All right, let's go then. Let's continue on.
Okay, picking up in verse 26. And so all Yisrael shall be delivered, as it has been written. The deliverer shall come out of Zion, and he shall turn away wickedness from Jacob. And this is my covenant with them when I take away their sins. Truly, as regards the Besorah, they are enemies for your sake, but concerning the choice, they are beloved for the sake of the fathers. For the gifts and the calling of Yahuwah are not to be repented of.
Okay, hang on. Can anybody explain that to us? This is an important message here. It has been written, the deliverer shall come out of Zion, and he shall turn away wickedness from Jacob, and this is my covenant with them when I take away their sins. So this is obviously speaking about who? Who's the covenant with? The Christian or churches? This is my covenant with them when I take away this. Who is the covenant with? What's it saying here? The deliverer shall come out of Zion. So the deliverer was Yahusha, come out of Zion, and he shall turn away wickedness from Jacob, and this is my covenant with them when I take away their sins. Go ahead, Ted.
I believe them is obviously, or maybe not so obviously, referring to the Natsarim, really, or his people, since it's talking about, I mean, what is a branch? Means Natsarim, right? He's talking about grafting in branches. That's who the covenant's with.
Yeah, but it says, and all of Israel shall be saved. What does that mean? All of Israel, or just the Natsarim, or what? What can that mean? When it says, and so all Israel shall be delivered, as it has been written. So it can't be just the Natsarim, can it? It says all of Israel, or does it? Any more thoughts on that, or anybody else?
Could it be with the people that are keeping the Torah and also believing in Messiah?
Yeah, it can be. I don't think it means every single person of the Commonwealth of Israel, because we know better than that. It told us otherwise, did it not? So what it has to be here is there, to me, And if we go back to the 144,000, we kind of get a clue of it. But I think there's going to be representatives delivered from every single tribe by all the tribes. So there's not going to be a tribe eradicated. There's going to be deliverance through all tribes. Did you know that the Gentiles, when the second Exodus comes and he gathers us all and takes us back to the promised land, did you know that because the Gentiles, wherever they settle in the promised land is what tribe they're going to be part of? So you're going to basically get to choose where you want to live, and then you become part of that tribe. So interesting here that all of Israel will be delivered, and I believe it's going to be a representation from every tribe. That's what I think it means. The only thing that makes sense to me. So the covenant is obviously then with those that believe, like Rua was saying, there are the ones that actually enter into the covenant. And we could say it's a covenant with Israel, because Israel isn't just about the seed of Abraham. It's about those who are the seed of Yahuwah, right? The seed of promise. As the Ruach HaKodesh has entered into the everlasting covenant. All right. Okay. Go ahead and continue on then.
Okay, picking up at verse 30. For as you also at one time disobeyed Yahuwah, but now have obtained compassion through their disobedience, so also these have now disobeyed, that through the compassion shown you, they also might obtain compassion. For Yahuwah has shut them all up to disobedience in order to have compassion on all. Oh, the depth of riches and wisdom and knowledge of Yahuwah! How unsearchable his judgments and untraceable his ways. For who has known the mind of Yahuwah, or who has become his counselor? Or who first gave to him, and it shall be given back to him? Because of him, and through him, and to him are all, to whom be esteemed forever. Amen.
Okay, thank you, Ted. Okay, so man, that just kind of laid it out there, right? So Yahuwah has shut them all up to disobedience in order to have compassion on all. Wow. Okay, so this is what we were saying, that many more will be delivered by this, the way Yahuwah decided to do this with the olive tree. And he used their disbelief in order to do this. And then he can have compassion on all, not just Israel, but all the nations as well, because he did it this way. That's why King David went against his people and went along with the will of Yahuwah. So it's quite amazing. And it said, we can't judge it. It's untraceable. We can't know the mind of Yahuwah. We can't counsel him. So we just need to be humble ourselves and walk with Yahuwah with humility and all the things, all the knowledge that we really need to understand is the knowledge of Yahuwah. That'll get us where we need to go. So that's where we're going to end. Real quick, Toria, Brother Brick here has said, all is translated from the Greek word pas, which means the whole of. So this is not speaking of every individual, but rather of every tribe. I agree with that. That's exactly what I say too.
I just wanted to say Danny was trying to get back on. He needed the link. If he could, he just needs to scroll back up and click on the link from the top.
There it is, Danny. I put it back up. We lost like 3 cell phones dropped all at once here. There's the link, Danny. If you tell him it's right there at the bottom if he needs it. if you're able to communicate with him, Toria. Go ahead, Ted.
I just had a quick question about this last thing we were talking about. If, if Yisrael hadn't, if they were all obeying, and if they weren't disobedient, would that have left the Gentiles to basically say, well, we have no hope, Is this basically what it's talking about? Why Yahuwah shut them all up in order to have compassion on all? Because they would have just basically had no hope, knowing that we all, all of Yisrael was saved to begin with.
Well, to my understanding, the Israel was chosen as a people to Yahuwah, and they were to be the high priests. Okay, and they were supposed to go out and take Yahuwah's will and his Besorah to all people throughout the whole world. And so, if they would have continued on their path that they were chosen to do, I think the people would have been chosen, and the Gentiles would have been delivered through the Besorah of the Yehudim. It's taking the Besorah of Yahusha to the world, and we would have been delivered that way. But since they disobeyed and didn't do what they were supposed to do, it messed everything up. And so Yahuwah says, okay, if you don't want to be obedient, take my will to the nations, okay, then I'm going to scatter you all through the nations, and I'll do it myself. I'll send a deliverer for the world and do it myself, and I'll bring the nations, and I'll teach the nations myself. I don't need you guys. See what I'm saying? And that's what I kind of think what was going on there, bro.
Yes, thank you. That clears up quite a bit of what thank you, Brother Mark.
Go ahead, Diane.
Thank you. We have to remember too that initially, Father Abraham was a Gentile. So that was Yah's, as Mark would say, Yah's all powerful. He does what he wants. And he chose this individual because he saw his heart. He knew his heart. And he chose that particular Gentile to bring about the plan of salvation. Hallelujah.
Yeah, amen. Yeah, that's right. Abraham, not Abraham, or Abra, was brought out of Babylon in order to create a people for himself, which would have been the high priest, right? And to teach and he would use them to go teach out to the rest of the world through them, because he was set apart out of him. He didn't want to be out there among all that idolatry and sin, but he would send his chosen people out there to do his will and his work for him, right? And don't forget, as Diane brought up a great point there, that Abraham believed in the promise, and he was uncircumcised. It was before he was circumcised. So don't forget that either. Okay, great point, Diane. Somebody's trying to. All right, I think we got everybody back now. No, we still lost Rebecca. Okay, anybody got any questions? Rebecca, come on back in if you can. Anybody want to elaborate on any of that any further? Go ahead, Ted.
I just want to thank Sister Diane for reminding us of that. That's a very, very good point. I appreciate you bringing that up, Sister.
Go ahead, Toria.
And I think what we all need to remember too is we are all his children, and he desires for all his children to come to him.
Yeah, that's a good point, Toria, too, because kind of like what we were kind of speaking about before there was that when we see somebody and we start judging them to be wrong or whatever, they're going to the lake of fire or whatnot, is that we have to stop and realize that we're talking about Yahuwah's creation. And when we start judging or bad mouthing his creation, which we all are, okay, we're all made out of the same lump, right? Then we start insulting the creator. The potter gets insulted, man. He's like, what? You don't like what I made? Okay, now all of a sudden you got Yahuwah offended because you're speaking bad about his creation. So the way I got kind of out of that myself, because I was bad at that too at one point, but I just started thinking or trying to concentrate on seeing people the way Yahuwah sees them. Try to see them out of the eyes of Yahuwah. And when I started doing that, I started seeing a lot of love. And I realized, hey, they're all Yahuwah's creation. They're all his children. He loves them as much as he loves me, man. You know, I started seeing out of his eyes. He loves everybody. Otherwise, they wouldn't be here. They wouldn't be here with us if he didn't love them. The only reason they're here is because he loves them. He gave them life, just like he did us. So we need to respect that and realize that everything belongs to Yahuwah. Everything's Yahuwah's. Everything's done for his delight. Yahuwah's everything. And we can even be bad-mouthing Yahuwah when we're bad-mouthing other people. Why? Because he's giving them breath, man. A little part of Yahuwah's in everybody. That's how we live. Yahuwah's the only one that obtains, that has everlasting life. Just him, nobody else. Without him giving us a little bit of his life and giving us his loving breath, we couldn't live. He sustains us. And so when I started looking at it that way, I started leaving people alone. You know what I'm saying? And if you practice that, you'll get good at it, because I hardly ever do it anymore. Once in a great while, you know, but mostly I've eliminated that out of my life, you know. And you can do it. Just gotta keep practicing. Try to look at people the way Yahuwah looks at them. That's the key. Go ahead, Toria.
I think for me, the word compassion, in my own walk, he found compassion for me for a journey that was definitely not what he wanted for me. And because of my journey, I see others on their journey, and I have compassion for, just because I'm where I'm at now, they're in a different place at this time, but their road may lead to the truth. And I find that compassion in each person I come across, that there just may not be there yet, because he gave compassion to me.
Yeah, that's very good advice. Rick got another pretty nice comment up here. The renewed covenant is only made with Israel. It was made with the house of Israel and the house of Yehuda and none other. It's a good point. And this is the reason why we have to engraft. We have to get into that covenant by becoming Yisrael. See that? And so it's a very vital and very important point he's making here. This is why we have to engraft. We have to. Can't get in no other way. It's the only way you can enter into the renewed covenant is by engrafting into Israel. So how does that happen for Gentiles? Well, basically, other than Yahuwah's will, his favor and his compassion, he can do whatever he wants, is through the cleansing process. The confession, the repentance, the water immersion, the covering of the blood, blotting out of your sins by the blood of Yahushua, immersion of the Ruach HaKodesh, and endurance, staying obedient to the end. That's how we engraft. That's how we get into the everlasting covenant. In other words, that's how, once you've cleaned yourself up enough and you've done all that, Yahuwah will marry you. He's courting us. Okay, Yahuwah's courting. You know, everybody's, somebody's from the South. We know what courting is, most of us. Sparking you is the same thing as courting. That's where I got that from. So courting you is Yah, right? He's courting you. He's calling you. He's dating you. He wants you to be his bride. And when you respond in a positive way and love comes together, bam, you get married. He becomes your husband. When you can call him your husband rather than Baal, you're getting somewhere. Okay, so very good point there from Brick. Anybody else? I don't see any other questions up here in the chat room. Anybody see any questions in the chat room? I don't. Anybody? We ready to stop now? Okay, so take what you've learned today, especially the forbidden chapter of the Christianity, Romans 11, especially, and read Jeremiah 31. Compare it to Jeremiah 31. You know, and like read Jeremiah 31 and then read Romans 11 again, maybe back and forth a few times. And this is what will help you when somebody begins to say that the church is the new chosen people. Other than the obvious, what you talking about, man? Yours or all the other thousands? See what I'm saying? Go ahead, Toria.
I just found that very interesting that you said the church. Messiah has often said that the church was made by man's hands, which to me, that just clarifies that the whole religious sect is made with man's hands, and they are not his people.
Yeah, good point. And then Brick's right there with you, Toria. There's no church gate into the New Jerusalem. Now there's no gate on the New Jerusalem. There's only 12 gates, and they're pearly gates. That's where the pearly gates are. They're not up there in Shemai somewhere in a fake place called heaven. The pearly gates are on the new city. And there's 12 of them, and not one of them is called Christian. Have a Christian on the door or church on the door. You know, they're all named after the 12 tribes. Okay, so yeah. Go ahead, Toria.
I just had a thought. I don't know if seeking out Hebrew and learning Shamayim, the heavens. Shah is the deliverance, and Mayim is the water, which are Mashiach is the water. So I always thought it was interesting to the deliverance through the water is the Shamayim, is our Mashiach.
Yeah, I definitely see the spiritual implications of that. Yeah, the living waters, man. You know, the manna from heaven, same thing. It's all Yahusha. Just like the armor of light, that's all Yahusha. The armor of Yahuwah, that's all Yahusha. It's no big secret. We have to sit there and scratch our head and try to figure out what all that means. It simply means put on Yahusha, man. Get in Yahusha. That's what it means. Get into Yahusha. Put a Yahusha on, man. Go ahead, Ruel.
It has kind of nothing to do with what we've been talking right now, but we kind of been, at least I have been bombarded with some friends. Has anybody really looked at King Charles' shield? His shield, the one they designed for the new King Charles. It has a red dragon. It has the little horn. It has the
Lion.
the beast that is kind of like a leopard with the feet of a bear and the head of a lion. All that is on his shield. And anybody have any comment on that?
Well, it's certainly, I mean, I haven't really looked at it that hard, but it kind of seems to be almost like the beast, right? The end time beast. I mean, what'd you say? It was a bear and a lion, and oh, they dropped off. What else did he say was on there? A bear and a lion.
And a leopard. Sounds like the chimera.
Yeah, it does. The leopard. So the only thing missing is what? The bear. I mean, he said a bear was on there. Bear, lion,
The eagle.
the eagle. That might be a good thing. That's interesting. I haven't seen the shield. Have y'all seen it? I haven't. It's interesting though. You know, I don't know, but it does say that the end time beast is going to have the mouth of the lion. You know, so he's going to maybe be able to communicate pretty well. Maybe something to do with it. Who knows, man? It could be. Could just be a smoke screen too. Get us off track, you know. Anybody else got any thoughts on that? Funny they said that and then they got booted off. The saint must not have liked what they were saying. I'm just kidding. All right. Anybody else got anything at all? It doesn't have to be on today's subject.
What's interesting to me is his shield shows that he, you know, the third in the Greek, but it could also be the three Vavs in the modern Hebrew, the 666.
You talking about on his shield, Toria? Really? Wow.
It's his registry shield. It's a different one.
Yeah, I never know that, but I don't know anything about him. Yeah, that's interesting, Gibbs, the girl there. What you're saying. This fire, water, Shemaim here. Did you know? I mean, I didn't know this before, but I don't know. It's been a couple years now that I was reading something, and it said that that the fire makes up water. I didn't know that. Somehow, fire is ingredients of water. It's how water is made through fire. Everything was made through fire, and that's, I'm thinking like, wow, that don't make any sense. You know, I started reading in there where it says that Yahuwah or Elohim is a consuming fire. And I'm like, what? And then fire coming down upon us from immersed with the Ruach. I say, wait a minute now. Maybe everything come out of maybe it's fire. Maybe water did come out of fire. And it's pretty interesting. Go ahead, Bria.
Well, if you think about it, when you need water, you have to take something like a piece of plastic or whatever to create heat, humidity to get the purified water to drink, like if you're in a desert or so. So yes, it takes the heat, the fire to create the water.
That was interesting, Toria. Thank you for that. I didn't know that.
Yeah, there's something else about that where they said that like there's waters in everything, you know, but then they proved otherwise. There was a couple elements or minerals that there was no water in it, so they kind of debunked that. But for the most part, the vast majority, water is found in everything, and then fire creates water, was created out of water. Somehow there's fire in water. I can't recall because it was so long ago that I was reading that. But hey, it's an interesting study if anybody wants to dig into it and read about it. It's pretty interesting, really.
Plus, it's also a conductor, water.
Yeah, it sure is. It can definitely be a source of not only frequencies, but produce electricity through the frequency of water. And that's another study you might want to partake on if you get a chance. Study frequencies and the effects through water. It's pretty amazing, really. So there's a lot of stuff that Yahuwah has done that we were not really fully aware of because of lack of knowledge. But that's one subject that's well worth your time in studying is frequencies. If you get a chance, you ought to spend a little time on that one. Okay. Anybody else, man? Anything to say? Nobody? Okay, so along with Jeremiah 31 and Romans 11 there, that's really the two comparisons. But, you can also go into Ezekiel 36, 26, 27, and 28, and Ezekiel 36, and Hebrews 8, Hebrews chapter 8, and specifically verses 8 and 12, and Zechariah 13 and 14 are also good. And even Romans 6 and 8 that we read last week also explains the renewed covenant to us. And like Brick pointed out there, it's with the house of Israel and the house of Yehuda. So we have to engraft in. So that all kind of goes together in understanding, getting a good understanding of what we're studying about today in Acts 9, 10, and 11. Alrighty. Anybody else? You want to talk about anything else? If you got a question or thoughts or comments or want to ask anything, now's the time to do it. Somebody, anybody? Everybody ready to rest on the Shabbat now? Yeah, remember it's Yom Shabbat, continue to rest until evening and praise and worship Yahuwah today, study. And it's a very important day, really. We shouldn't take it lightly. It's vital, really, to be identified as Yahuwah's children. You need to do it. And anyone that doesn't think so, and they violate Shabbat, I'm telling you, it's almost no comeback from there once you've tasted the Ruach, especially. So we don't want to be disobedient to the Ten Commandments. We want to remain obedient. We want to observe Yom Shabbat the best of our ability and understanding. And don't forget, you're going into another Shabbat after today. So when it gets dark, Shabbat's not over for us this time. We continue on into the next Shabbat, which is trumpets. So we have back-to-back Shabbats this week. So we got to rest all the way through the end of the 26th. Go ahead, Phyllis.
Yom Torah doesn't start until sundown tomorrow night.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Oh, you're right. You're right. I'm wrong. Yeah, it's on the 26th. So it'd be the sundown on the 25th through the night, and then the next day would be the 26th until the evening. So yeah, it's not back to back. You're right. But this spot ends at evening, and then so we have That starts the 25th, right? Yeah. And then, so then we got the 25th, and then it's sundown on the 25th starts trumpets. So Phyllis is correct. Go ahead, Tori.
I just wanted to say for me, today on the calendar that I actually use to me, today is Atonement. I'm not sure, if there's others out there who do different days also, but for me, it's a double Shabbat. So I just want to give exceedingly great praise. That was it.
Okay. Anybody else got anything to say? Okay, Brick. See you next week, brother. Glad you made it into the chat room. It was quite helpful to have you in there. Okay. Nobody else? If not,
I'd like to say hi to Sandra.
she's your neighbor. She's right there.
It's been a blessing, all of you.
If I were to say anything, I would just be singing praise Yahusha, and we praise the Ruach Kadesh, and I praise you, set apart ones, that I have fellowship with you. I'm so grateful. I just listen to this after we get off. I'm gonna listen over and over again because I'm trying to learn. Pray my strength in Yahusha.
He's gotten you, no problem. I thank him for the messengers that he has sent to us to help us, not only in hearing, but learning and love. One of the things we was talking about, I was muted a few times. I couldn't say anything. It just reminded me when Yahushua looked upon people and his heart just went out to them. And it's like the love he has for man and womankind, mankind. And we can't be no less than Yahushua. And I'm learning that every day, how to love. I'm afraid to ask, like Brother Mark said, show me a little love. Let me just have a little bit. Almost took him out. So I watch what I say. I don't want to ask for something I can't handle.
Yeah, I really don't have any choice but to keep track of the mics because we'd be talking for no reason because the echoes are so bad that nobody can understand what we're saying. I'm not muting you guys to be mean or try to quiet you, make you not have a voice. I'm just raise your hand and I'll cut mine off and let you cut yours on. That's the best I can do, man. I'm not doing it on purpose. I'm doing it because I have to. Otherwise, we're just wasting our time. Nobody's going to understand what we're saying with all those horrible echoes. But go ahead, AJ.
I understand. No problem. We got to have order because the Father is order. So we must have order. I love you, brother.
Thank you. Love you too, man. I got Colin here. How could I join in future Zoom meetings? Abaya, willing, of course. You mean into the StreamYard? If you see there's less than 10 people, all you do is click on that StreamYard link that I put out there. Here, I'll show you what it looks like. There it is, StreamYard link. You just click on that and follow the instructions. It takes you to the backstage of StreamYard, and I see you in there, then I let you in. If there's more than 10 people, I can't let you in. So you have to either get in early or wait to see that there's less than 10 and then click on that link right there and then follow the instructions to the back room. Then once you get on, you got to control your mic and you got to turn off YouTube, but stay on StreamYard. That's how you do that, Colin. Give it a try next week, man. Go, Ted. Go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say the same thing you did, Brother Mark. Make sure to turn off YouTube.
Go ahead, AJ. Can't hear you, brother. We're not hearing you, AJ. No, your mic's off somehow, or volume's turned down, something. You upside down now. We can't hear you, brother. How about now? No, we're not hearing you, AJ. Not hearing you, AJ. Something happened. I don't know. We can't hear you, man. We can see you talking, but we can't hear what you're saying. Anybody else? We all have slight different opinions of things. You know, we need to be united on the basics as Natsarim. Okay, our love for each other is proof that we follow Yahuwah, that we're Yahuwah's children. It doesn't mean we ain't gonna have a spat here, a spot, a little bit argument there or whatever, or disagreement. It's okay because nobody knows everything. There's no way that we can understand everything. Okay, there's so much stuff out there. But as far as the basics go, the basic core, we all need to be on the same page with that. There should be no arguing about the basic core, the salvation, if you will, the cleansing and the immersions and the endurance, and who Yahusha is, and that Yahuwah is Yahuwah incarnated, and we follow the 7 appointed times. The first 4 have already been fulfilled. In the last 3 prophecies, we're still waiting to fill them. He hasn't fulfilled those yet, and they're all about Yahusha. Appointed times are just a shadow of Yahusha. It speaks of what Yahusha is doing. It's very easy for us to understand that as Natsarim. We have to stick together on that. We can't vary off of that. It's very simple, really. I mean, Passad is him, shedding of the blood for our sins, blotting out the sins, and then, unleavened bread is his sinless body laying dead in the tomb, basically, and the Bikurim, first fruits is his resurrection, and the trumpets is the second coming of Yahushua. Kafar is the day begins the day of Yahuwah. It's the last day you can call on the name of Yahuwah and be delivered, and it ushers in the day of Yahuwah. And then tabernacles is Yahuwah coming back and tabernacling with us. And on the 8th day, we're celebrating immortality. We don't stay in the booths on the 8th day because it represents us putting on our immortal bodies. And as far as the wedding supper goes, there's different opinions of that, but that's nothing to stumble over. And then you see at the white throne judgment, you got to put in there somewhere, and then eternity, right? And the new creation, the renewed earth, and the new Shemaim, and the new city, Jerusalem, in our immortal bodies. So you got to place all that in there somewhere too. And there's different opinions, and it really doesn't matter as long as we know what each point of time represents, and in accordance to Yahusha, reference to Yahusha. That's what's important. Everybody done now? You want to do the priestly blessing? I'll get off of here. Okay. Yeah. All right. Let's do the priestly blessing, and then I'll see y'all next week. Okay. Yahuwah bless you and guard you. Yahuwah make his face shine upon you and show favor to you. Yahuwah lift up his face upon you and give you shalom. Baruch haba b'shem Yahuwah. Okay, I'm gonna open everybody up and you can see what it sounds like when we all talk at once.
Baruch haba b'shem Yahuwah.
Baruch haba
Shabbat
b'shem
shalom,
Yahuwah.
Mishpachah.
Open up your mics, everybody. I'm sorry, Sam. You did not close. Shabbat shalom. That is working now.
Shabbat shalom.
Thanks for coming. See y'all next week.
Thanks for another great.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a night, trumpets.